Welcome back, everybody. Happy Wednesday. This is Airdomo Global, your weekly guide to the world's most compelling real estate opportunities. I'm Stephanie Gillison.
And I'm Charles Bornheimer. And Stephanie, to start us off, will you name the country that pulls more visitors than anywhere else in the Caribbean and is still one of the cheapest places in the region to own anything? What are we talking about?
Charles, that is Dominican Republic. Most people file it under all-inclusive resorts and cheap flights and never think about it again. They are missing what the island actually offers. You can own a place here you genuinely want to use, and it earns while you're gone. A well-built 2 or 3 bedroom near the beach runs in the low 200s, you all. Flights come in direct for most of all of North America. The rental market works all 12 months. There's no downtime. It is the first place I would send a buyer who has never owned property outside of their own country.
Right, and that's an important tip. And there's really 2 coasts that we're talking about today, and we're comparing the east is Punta Cana and in Cap Cana, and south is La Romana. And after that, we'll talk about ownership and residency and the tax programs. But if you're looking at DR yourself, put it in the chat. Tell us where you're looking. Tell us anything interesting you found on your search. If you've got questions about it, by all means, plug in, and we're happy to answer and have that conversation. So let's get started. Before we go region by region, let's talk about the foundation. A lot of places are cheap for a reason, but what makes Dominican different from cheap?
Look, the Dominican Republic gets more visitors than any other country in the Caribbean. Almost 12 million came through just this past year. That volume pays for real infrastructure. Airlines add routes, management companies open up, somebody is renting in September. Most cheap markets never get any of that. And that is usually why they stay cheap.
Right, and let's break that down a little bit. About 9 million of those visitors came by air, the rest by sea. More than half of the air arrivals come to Punta Cana, and this year is even doing better than years prior. The first half of 2026 set a record at over 6 million, and they're on pace to clear 12 million. So what does that mean to a buyer in those areas?
Occupancy is the number that matters in the Dominican Republic. Hotels here hold above 70% across the full year. I want to be careful with that figure. It is a market signal, not a promise on any one unit. What it tells you is that the demand does not switch off in September. Most of the region has a 3-month season, okay? You carry the property the other 9 months. But here in the Dominican Republic, the calendar is always on your side, and that's a rarity.
Yeah, it is, and that's huge. Well, let's get specific and talk about the East Coast in particular. We have Punta Cana on the eastern tip in the La Altagracia province. This is the high concentration of resorts, all the restaurants, all the marinas. Why does this end of the island keep coming up in conversation?
Punta Cana is where I would send someone buying their first property overseas. It is the most developed corner of the Dominican Republic. People hear that as a downside, but it's not. There is an international airport 20 minutes from most of the good inventory. There's hospitals and international schools. There are grocery stores where you recognize half of the product that's on the shelves. None of it's glamorous. It's the difference between a property you enjoy and a property you fight with.
Right, and I think the supply picture backs that up, because what you have here is a lot of condo product, a lot of new construction. Big reason is Comptour, which is an incentive for new tourism development that developers build towards. What does that mean for someone who's not going to live there full time?
Punta Cana has a management layer. Most buyers never think about it until they absolutely need it, okay? There are companies here whose whole business is keeping your unit booked and clean and paid out, all right? That means keeping your bank account full and you forgetting about it. The visitor volume is what supports them. You are not building a rental operation from scratch. They've already built it. You are not asking a neighbor to check on your roof. You hand over the keys and you get a statement. That is most of what people are buying here.
Right, and so let's take a step up that price ladder. Same area, same East Coast, Cap Cana. gated, master planned community. It's about 15 minutes from the airport. Punta Espada golf course, a full service marina. There's a St. Regis and an Eden Rock right on the site. What does Cap Cana mean to the buyer?
Cap Cana is selling control. Everything sits behind one gate with its own security and its own set of rules about what gets built and how it's going to look. All right. That's a different product from the condo market 15 minutes up the road. Buyers there are not chasing yield. They are buying a legacy home or the place the family lands every Christmas for 30 years. What they are paying for is the certainty that the view will still be the view 20 years from now.
Right, and the pricing there kind of tells the story. A median villa is going to sit around maybe to 1.5 million. Condos in around the 350 to 400 range, with the whole community running anywhere from 300K to 20 million and even up now. So that asks a question about the front door. What can you tell buyers about that?
Most people will get inside of Cap Cana through a condo rather than the villa. The entry point is right around $300,000, and that's why. The villas behind that same gate trade for several times that, and you just mentioned that. You are buying the address and the amenities instead of the square footage. Plenty of buyers want that level of finish and do not need 8 bedrooms to get it. The gate is a lot closer than it looks.
And one more thought before we leave this particular area. The country is a little wider than just the East Coast. We have the South Side too. We have La Romana, Casa de Campo, Bayahibe, polo fields, the Teeth of the Dog golf course, an entire working marina. Where does that coast fit in for you?
Casa de Campo has been doing genuine high end in the Dominican Republic for 50 years, long before Cap Cana even existed. It is old money Caribbean with polo and golf and a working marina. Imagine polo overlooking the ocean, guys. I mean, isn't that amazing to even think about? It feels nothing like newer communities on the East Coast. Buyers usually know within 10 minutes which of the two they prefer. Both sit under the same ownership rules and the same tax treatment.
Right, and that's the part of the story that I think is really interesting. There is a tourism incentive law here. It's a confliteur, and with it, standard costs are at around 3% transfer tax at closing, and an annual property tax of 1%, charged only on the assessed value above a threshold of $170,000. So assessed value normally tracks at or below the purchase price. On a qualifying property, the confliteur removes both for up to 15 years. So the clock starts when you get the approval, not when you buy. So that's an important thing to remember.
Absolutely. And the confliteur approved property in the Dominican Republic can save a buyer close to $40,000 on a $350,000 condo, you all. $40,000. About $10,500 of that comes off the closing table day one. The rest builds up every single year. The exemption still has left to run. Most buyers hear tax incentive and assume it's a rounding error. A full term worth about 11% of the purchase price. 2 condos in the same building can look identical and be $40,000 apart because of those incentive differences.
Right. Important to keep in mind, and also important to remember that it's when the project got approved, not when you purchased. So that's an important data point to look at before you do your math. And again, this isn't a shelter. It's not a workaround. It's written into national law. It applies to Dominicans and foreigners on the same terms. So that brings up another question for North Americans to think about. What do you think that would be?
Well, a foreigner in Dominican Republic has the same constitutional property rights as a Dominican citizen. There is no trust structure, no local partner. You do not need residency to buy. You can take your money back out when you sell. There's one rule worth knowing about. The first 60 meters back from the high tide line is public land, and nobody owns it, Dominican or foreign people. So check where the lot actually starts before you believe the word beachfront. Everything behind that line you hold in your name. Everything in front of that line is public property.
Yeah, important to remember and to make those measurements. But one more piece before we close out this particular topic. There are residency pathways here. The thresholds change. What's your standing advice for someone who's getting serious about Dominican and wants to look at the residency factor?
Anyone buying in the Dominican Republic, first off, has to reach out to Airdomo. That's what we're here to do. We have built the relationship with the special attorneys that can handle this. So before you sign anything, you need to consult with us so that we can get you in front of the right people. We want to confirm that Coffertura resolution in writing. We want to confirm it by number and by date for that exact project. The exemption attaches to the project and not to your unit. It runs from the approval date. So a project cleared 6 years ago has 6 fewer years left in it for you. Developers advertise the benefit constantly, but they never mention the clock. They don't mention when the clock's going to run out. So getting that wrong is going to cost you real money, and you don't want to find that out at the closing table.
No, absolutely. So let's put this all together against all the markets we've been talking about here on the show. Where are you putting DR?
Look, the Dominican Republic is the rare market where the lifestyle and the spreadsheet actually agree with each other. You get the busiest visitor economy in the Caribbean. You get the ownership rights of a citizen. You get a tax program that can hand back more than 1/10 of the purchase price. Most places in this region give you one of those, and then you live with losing the other two. Very few countries anywhere give you all three at a price a normal person can actually afford. And a normal person, you all, that's us. And here in a few months, I'm going to the Dominican Republic for this exact reason. There are amazing inventory there for us to take a look at, and there's great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a ton on Airdomo right now. Everything from the condos we've talked about to the spectacular villas. So make sure you check it out. But if you are actively thinking about Dominican, and what might be there for you, put it in the chat, as we said. Put your questions, put what you're finding, what you're looking for. Punta Cana, Cap Cana, which one is your preference? Stephanie, how would somebody who's kind of deciding between the two make that decision?
Well, the choice between Punta Cana and Cap Cana comes down to what you want the property to do while you're not in it. If you want it to earn, that's Punta Cana. The rental demand is there. The management companies are there. The whole corridor is built to run without you. But if you want it waiting for you, that's Cap Cana. You're paying for the gate and the standards of certainty. Do not expect it to work as hard for you. Can you still rent it out? Sure, but it's not going to pay you back the same as the Punta Cana. Most people watching are the first kind, and they want to maybe graduate to the second. So if you're genuinely the second kind, you already know that that's what you want. My parents are the second kind. They don't like others in their home. They want it all to themselves. So it just depends on who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the first kind, Charles, because I like money.
Yeah, exactly. I hate to think of it sitting empty and not earning for me. So
exactly.
So, but either way, either market, this is something our concierge team is designed to built around helping you with. So it starts with a conversation, starts with a search, and just tell us where you're looking and the numbers you're trying to make, and we're gonna find it for you. I assure you. Concierge, this is really important, especially as we said, the Coffertura status. That's something really important to get right when we get going on the actual search. Sonny, what's the last word on Dominican? Everyone should keep in mind.
The Dominican Republic should be on your list if it has not been. The smartest buyers move before the trade is obvious to everyone else. And this country has been obvious to the Canadians and the Europeans for 20 years, okay? We in America, we're just figuring it out right now. That gap is the only window that ever really matters. So thank you again for joining us on Airdomo Global. Head to airdomo.com to connect with our concierge team and start your conversation with us. We will see you next week with another market, another opportunity. And until then, find your place in the world.
Yeah, find it on Airdomo. We'll see you next week.
Bye, y'all.